You have a piece of paper that has all this information on it already, so you don't really need me to tell you, but I will. And like I say, this is Kingdom Monera. The classification Kingdom Monera, class Monerans, or Eubacteria. Okay. Hi, Mom.
Hi.
What does U mean typically? EU? True. When you see the bacteria, it usually means true. Right? Okay. Alright, so you got the bacteria over here on the table. We got slides out where you can look at some of the basics. We got some posters to look at to let you see the difference in the different items. And a nice big poster of a bacterial cell to kind of give you an idea of the layout. Bacteria, of course, is one of those things where you run into lots of pathogen type things. So there's some information over here on pathogens. Pay attention to HIV. I might actually do something about HIV. The waterborne pathogens, look at it, but I will not ask you a question about it on the test. Okay? If there was some kind of a miraculous spray that you could spray on a human being and dissolve the human being and just leave the bacteria, you could still recognize the person. Okay? So we are very closely associated with bacteria. Not all bacteria is bad. Okay? So anyway, just keep in mind that bacteria plays a huge role in all living organisms. Blue-green algae is not algae. Blue-green algae is the common name for cyanobacteria. Okay? So when it comes test time, don't let blue-green algae screw you up, because it's not an algae, it's a bacteria. Yeah, the second thing on your front page is the blue-green algae, and it is cyanobacteria. I assume you have it on your sheet, but just in case. And it is photosynthetic. Of course, you can tell that because it's got chlorophyll and carotenoids and all that good stuff. When you look at it under the microscope, it's going to be a bunch of individual hooked together. It's going to be one of these things. You're going to have this thing out here, and it's going to be a whole bunch of individuals hooked together. Okay? That's not one organism, that's a bunch of them. All right, next. We come to Kingdom Protista. Can't tell the players without a scorecard. Okay, Kingdom Protista. Kingdom Protista are going to be much larger than Monera. And we're now into eukaryotes instead of prokaryotes. Right? Y'all still remember the difference in prokaryotes and eukaryotes? Membrane-bound organelles, that sort of thing, right? Okay. All right. The first of these, I call this stuff different stuff than they do, but I want to use your piece of paper. I would normally call this amoeba classification is cercozoans, but we're going to use the rhizopoda, or whatever it is. Rhizopoda, is that what it is? Yeah, rhizopoda on y'all's sheet. So that's what we'll use. Amoebas are single-celled organisms. Not a lot going on. How do they move around?
For pseudofoot, huh?
With pseudopods, right? They extend part of their cell wall with the stuff on the inside, the protoplasm going with it, and cytoplasm, protoplasm, whatever. And that's how they move around. That's how they feed. They surround their food and engulf it and digest it, which is phagocytosis. Do they talk about that in there? That it's phagocytic?
Phagocytosis? Yeah.
Okay. All right, they're phagocytic. I will expect you to know the body parts and stuff, particularly from the posters and things like that, right? Okay. Next is the protozoans, is the ciliates, right? The paramecium, things like that. Ciliata? What's the... Ciliophora. Ciliophora. Couldn't remember the word. Same thing. I'll expect you to pay quite a bit of attention to this and be able to name body parts. All right. Now we get to the algae. Algae are, believe it or not, a little more advanced. What we just talked about, the protozoans are animals. The algae are not. The algae are also not plants. The algae are algae. Okay? Now, you've got the chrysophyta, which is this first group, the yellow-brown golden algae. The chrysophyta live inside glass houses. They make tests or shells. I should read the labs because I never know what's going on. Tests or shells out of silica. They're really pretty. They come in lots of different shapes, and they're literally glass, clear glass. You see the animal on the inside. Don't let it confuse you when you're looking at the slides, because they're stained on the slides. Okay? The color will not be yellow. It will be blue or green or something like that. They'll be stained. Okay? So don't let that part confuse you. The shells that they make, those glass tests, when they die, fall to the bottom of the ocean. There are lots and lots of these things. So there are places where it may be several hundred meters thick of nothing but these glass shells down there. Y'all have all heard of diatomaceous earth? Well, that's what diatomaceous earth is their shells. Okay? They use it for filtration, they use it for polishing, lots of different things, but it's all this silica glass shells of these animals that they use to do all that stuff with. Okay. Now the algae that everybody's kind of familiar with, green algae, right? The chlorophyta. You got cellulose here in a cell wall, right? You're starting to move towards a plant type setup. Brown algae. Brown algae are your seaweeds, okay? Marine organisms. there's still single